Go for it.
Welcome back. Your dreams were your ticket out. Welcome back to that same old place that you laughed about. Well, the names have all changed since you hung around, but those dreams have remained and they've turned around. Who'd have thought they'd lead ya? Who'd have thought they'd lead ya? Back here where we need ya. Back here where we need ya. Yeah, we tease him a lot, 'cause we got him on the spot. Welcome back. 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 We always could spot a friend. Welcome back. And I smile when I think how you must have been. And I know what a scene you were learning in. Was there something that made you come back again? And what could ever lead you? What could ever lead you? Back here where we need you. Back here where we need you. Yeah, we tease him a lot, 'cause we got him on the spot. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Yeah, we tease him a lot. Welcome back. Welcome back. 'Cause we got him on the spot. Welcome back. Welcome back. Yeah, we tease him a lot. 'Cause we got him on the spot. Welcome back. 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 Welcome back.
Whoa. Thank you, Chad. You keep outdoing yourself. All right. So welcome back to the B'nai Yeshurun cooking class, the Zoom cooking class. It's our pleasure to be with you again after a hiatus for the many fall Jewish holidays, and we trust that you are all well and safe. Tonight's theme for our class is everything eggplant. Before we start with the actual cooking, we have a few items to mention. First, we'll be doing a series of 5 classes this season. They'll be starting, of course, with tonight. And then next week, we'll be doing a class on 5 minimal ingredient recipes that are only 2 or 3 ingredients. After that, we had, as of this afternoon, to switch our next class because there's going to be a community challah baking class on November 5th. So we're going to delay our next class. And then in 3 weeks, on November 12th, we're going to be doing some comfort food. Hopefully all the election results will be in and we'll need a little comfort. And these will be all items that we've already served at the B'nai Yeshurun kitchen. On the 19th of November, we'll be doing a cholent class and hopefully have many guest chefs to perform for us. Our very last class will be for Hanukkah, and we'll be doing the very first night of Hanukkah, December 10th, as part of the entire synagogue celebration. So stay tuned, it's going to be something really special, I hope. Following our class tonight, we are honored to have Cantor Schiffman's class at 8 p.m., so we can't run over. And it'll be on how and why of Jewish rituals. His presentations are always not just informative, but always very enlightening and very interesting. So join us now for food for your body and stay with the Cantor for nourishment for your soul. The link for his Zoom is in the chat, so it'll be very easy to go there. We would like to thank Chad Cohen, who recently retired, to take on our full-time role as creative director, Zoom master, producer, and Henry Eggins impersonator. Thanks for all you do, Chad. Eggplant is one of my favorite items to grow in the garden. It is technically not a vegetable, but it's a berry, and it's part of the nightshade family. I personally had no idea what nightshades were till at the B'nai Yeshurun kitchen, someone came in and said, I'm allergic to nightshades. And I found out that besides eggplant, nightshades include tomatoes, potatoes, and peppers. Eggplant is also called aubergine, which is the French name, and that's how they refer to it in Europe and Great Britain. Personally, I like to say aubergine because I took 2 years of French in college, and that's about all I can do, so it makes me feel really good. Tonight, we will be cooking 3 different eggplant dishes, an appetizer, a soup, and a pasta. The actual cooking has been recorded so we can show you from start to finish the process and the result. If you need to watch these again as you try to cook an item, they will be readily available with a link in tonight's chat room or on the synagogue webpage. Along with Mary and my 2 daughters, I was fortunate to go to Morocco last December, which seems like a lifetime ago. And as part of our experience, we had a cooking class that was really great. One of the dishes we learned to cook was Moroccan eggplant, an appetizer. And this leads me into introducing my friend Tova and our first dish for tonight, Zaalouk. But before I do, I wish to mention one thing. I wanted to name this class Everything Eggplant, and that's no yolk. But Tova vetoed that, so I guess I won't mention it. Tova, it's all yours.
Thank you, Murray. I guess the yolk's on me. So Murray made this eggplant dip, and I had the good fortune to taste it. It was delicious. I love taking out cookbooks from the library, and by coincidence, not too long after, I had taken out a cookbook that was Moroccan cooking. And I'm looking through this cookbook, and there's a recipe for an eggplant dip. So I started reading the ingredients and the process, and I realized it's pretty much the dip that Murray made, but it's called Zaalouk. Zaalouk is how Murray said it, but I've been saying it's Zaalouk. So I had to let Murray know that his dip is called Zaalouk. And what I did is I kind of mashed up Murray's recipe with the recipe in the cookbook, and that's the recipe that you have. So I present Zaalouk. I've got my frying pan heating on medium, and I'm going to add a little bit of oil, olive oil. That's good. And I'm going to add my eggplant, which is cubed, and I peeled it, made stripes with it. So there's peel on some of the pieces, but not all of them. And I'm going to add my salt. I have a teaspoon of salt. Okay, and then we're just going to cover this and let it cook for 10 minutes. I'm going to set my timer. Okay. All right, so I've been cooking this for 10 minutes, and I've turned my heat down a little bit. I've checked it every once in a while and have started mashing it with my potato masher. And now we're going to add some other ingredients. Okay, let me get this all cleared off. Okay, so we're going to add our 2 tomatoes that are cubed, and I still have garden tomatoes, So that's what I'm adding. My sliced garlic. And I'm adding my spices, which is cumin, cayenne. Now start with 1/8 of a teaspoon, unless you know you like it spicy. You can go right to 1/4, but you can always add more at the end if it's not spicy enough for you. Paprika and smoked paprika. You can do all smoked paprika, all sweet paprika, whatever your preference is. I have a mixture. And then there's black pepper in there as well. We're going to add our herbs. I've got parsley and cilantro here. I like cilantro more, so I used more cilantro, less parsley. If you like parsley more, then go ahead and reverse that. I've got them in my little ramekin here, and I just take my scissors right before I add them and chop them up with the scissors. Herbs get bruised easily, and if you chop them with a knife, sometimes they bruise more than just doing it like that with the scissors. Okay. So I'm going to give this a stir to incorporate everything. And then we're going to cover this and let it cook for another 20 minutes. This is a dip, and you want it to be spreadable. It's also called a salad. It's Moroccan. And Zaalouk, the name of this in Arabic, means puree or something soft. So we're trying to get it to that point. And I'm going to add my honey into this too. All right, so I'm going to cover this. I'm going to keep checking my heat. If it seems like it's too hot, I'm going to go between low and medium. Right now I have it on medium, and I'm going to check back in 20 minutes after it's been cooking for that long. It's been cooking for a little, so I'm just checking it to see it's simmering nicely. And I'm going to take my masher and mash everything that's in there. This is part of the process. You just keep doing it as the vegetables in here soften. They're mashing up nicely. Okay, and now we're going to continue cooking it some more. This has been cooking pretty much on low for 20 minutes, and things have softened nicely, and now I'm using my potato masher again just to sort of mash down the eggplant and the tomatoes. If you've got chunks in there, that's great. It's just fabulous to have different textures with all these wonderful different flavors. So now we're going to add our lemon juice. It's a tablespoon of lemon juice. It's always a good idea to pour it through a strainer in case you've gotten a seed in there or some pulp. Just takes away trying to fish that out. And I'm going to put it back up to medium. Lemon juice kind of brightens the flavor, and it just adds another dimension. So we're just going to let it cook a little bit. Some of the liquid will evaporate. And then what I'm going to do is just put this in, I like to store it in a Pyrex that has a lid. I'm going to let it cool first, put it in here, and refrigerate it until I'm ready to use it. I have served this warm, where I just kind of microwave it, and I've served it room temperature, and I've served it cold. And guess what? It's delicious all those ways. So just depending on what your preference is, you can play around with it too. I like to serve it with pita bread. I just take a circle of pita bread and cut it into triangles. and have them in a bowl. I also serve cucumber and carrots with it, so that if somebody doesn't want to have a pita, you can serve it with anything, and it just makes a wonderful appetizer, or you can serve it as a salad, which is what it's meant to be, a salad or a dip. So that is Zaalouk. Okay. I don't know, are there any questions? Pretty simple.
People should be able to unmute themselves now. I had the settings wrong.
We can now.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Lynn.
Sure.
And I've also been having a little trouble with the links. I think I finally got it figured out. So the last thing I put in was the link to the Zaalouk recipe.
Mhm.
Okay.
So when do we come over and pick up the stuff that you just made? No? Oh.
I have a question, Tova.
Yes.
Did you add the snipped up parsley while you were cooking it, but the cilantro only at the end?
I added a mixture of parsley and cilantro
In the middle of it.
But when I serve it, I sprinkle a little bit of fresh herbs. That's the way Murray did it. And again, you can use whatever your preference is, and it makes it look nice, and it tastes good. So
Thank you.
sure.
Okay, all
Excellent.
right. Should we continue?
Yes.
Here we are. Okay. So, one thing I want to suggest is, we get our recipes out a week in advance. We've been really good about that lately. And so if you're really want to go along with this, I recommend printing out the recipes in advance. Yeah, see Marcy, I see she has it there. And you can follow better. And then you can catch us when we make mistakes, and say, well, why did it say this? And that's because, we make mistakes. But, it all comes out. It's cooking.
You can add notes if you give little extra tips.
That's right. Right. And if you want, we can virtually sign it for you too. Okay. So next we're going to move on. So we have our appetizer, and it was delicious. And I'm sorry, I mispronounced. I put an extra vowel on it, I think, but I didn't know the name of it. I just knew what it was. So next we're going on to the soup. So you want to roll it, Chad?
Eggplant is one of my favorite vegetables, but it always seems like we were making either eggplant parmesan or baba ganoush. Recently I had some eggplant soup and it was delicious, so I decided to dabble in it. So we have tonight some roasted eggplant soup. We start with 2 large eggplants. 1.5. Then I'm going to spray them with a little olive oil. I'm going to put on some cumin. Now you can use cumin seeds as the recipe calls for, but it's a heck of a lot easier just to have a little ground cumin and place it on the eggplant. So we'll do that. Spread it out a little bit. Okay. See all that cumin. All right. Then we're going to take a aluminum foil coated pan, spray it slightly, put the eggplant on. And we're going to go ahead and roast this for about 25 to 35 minutes in an oven that's been preheated to 400. while this is cooking, we take some olive oil and take about 2 to 3 tablespoons and put that in a stock pot. To that, we add 1 large chopped onion. The onions are then heated till they become a little translucent and softened. And to that, we add 4 to 5 stalks of chopped celery. We keep stirring the mixture till everything becomes softened. Once this is softened, I'm going to add about 1 2/3 cups of vegetable bouillon. The recipe generally calls for chicken bouillon, but I wanted to make this a parve soup, so I'm using vegetable bouillon instead. We then add a can and then I take a little bit of the vegetable bouillon to get some of the tomato juice off the sides of the can and add that, just maybe 1/3 cup of the bouillon. We then add 3 garlic cloves, 1/4 cup chopped parsley, some cilantro, and some thyme. We mix it all together. By this time, our eggplant has cooked, so we take it out. Then we flip it over and allow it to cool. Once it has cooled, we start to take a spoon. Of course, one is not totally cold, but a little steam coming out, but still easy to work with. And we scoop out the insides of the eggplant. We'll do that with all 4 parts from the 2 large eggplants that we started with. And here we go. Then we take the eggplant that we've spooned out and we add that to the pot. Stir it all together. We then season with a little salt and pepper and a little cayenne pepper. Go light on that. Unless you like it spicy, you can always add some more later. Then we will cook this Before the cooking, though, we do add a little stock just to cover the surface of the soup. Okay, and now we'll allow it to cook. Okay, our time has elapsed. It's about 22 minutes after we started cooking. And now we're going to use the immersion blender on this. The result is fairly thick, so I'm going to add a little bit more of the vegetable broth. And then put it all together. So here is our final product. Eggplant soup garnished with cilantro. Eggplant is one of my favorite vegetables.
All right, wonderful. I apologize, our sound got a little messed up there, but hopefully you got the basics. What's going on? Background noise. Anyways, so does anybody have any questions?
I put mine in the chat.
What was your question, Jay? We don't.
Oh, okay. I said, are those from your garden, the eggplant or the aubergine?
No,
No?
no, they're actually not from my garden. I did pick 13 eggplant one day, but I made them mostly for eggplant parmesan. And someone says about salting the eggplant. We don't salt, for this, we don't salt it. When I do eggplant parmesan, I do salt the eggplant, but not for this.
You salt it before you cook it?
Before you cook it, yeah.
And then what does the salt
I
do?
put it, I've salted in a colander and I let it sit there for about 10 minutes and rinse it off. It gets rid of the bitterness.
Ah,
What I've been reading is that it's not necessary to do that anymore because they've kind of engineered the bitterness out of the eggplant. So I used to do that as well, but I don't even bother doing it anymore. It's not necessary.
Well, I only grow bitter eggplant, so.
Well, this-
That's it.
you're a bitter man.
Murray, will this soup freeze?
Yes. I don't know. I would think so. Yes, I haven't froze it, but it would probably be freezable. Most of them are.
Did you say how many people that you made feeds?
No.
Will you say?
I'd say 6 to 8.
Okay. Thank you.
It's a pretty good amount. Okay, any other questions? All right, sorry again about the voice and the time and some of the photography, but we're working on it, of course. All right, Tova, you want to take over, please?
Okay. All right. So we're moving on to an entree called pasta alla Norma, which is an Italian pasta and eggplant dish typical of Sicilian cuisine, specifically from the city of Catania. It was created in the 19th century and is among the most historic and iconic Sicilian dishes. The name pasta alla Norma is said to have originated from the exclamation of Italian writer Nino Martolio, who upon tasting the dish exclaimed, "Christa e na vera Norma." I did not take Italian in school, which means this is a real Norma. The author was comparing the dish with a perfection of the Vincenzo Bellini opera Norma. This dish really is perfection. It's simple ingredients combined to make a wonderful entree. Okay. So how do you choose the eggplant you're going to buy? Well, you want the skin to be shiny and smooth. You don't want there to be any soft spots. It should feel firm and have a little weight to it. You want the stem to pretty much be green and not be dried out. Okay, and I always choose a slender, not real huge eggplant. I'd rather use 2 smaller ones than one really giant one, because the giant one will have a lot of seeds in it. And generally the tall ones are the male ones and they don't have as many seeds in it. Okay, so we're going to, I've washed this eggplant and I'm pulling back the stem a little bit, and we're going to start preparing the eggplant that we're going to roast for the pasta alla Norma. I've cut off the stem, and what we're going to do is partially peel the eggplant. So we're going to make stripes using a potato peeler. Okay, this is similar to the way I peeled the eggplant for the Zaalouk, the eggplant dip, but that eggplant got diced. The eggplant for this dish, we're going to cut into rounds about a 1/2 inch each. I've preheated my ovens to 400. If you just have one oven, you can rotate the trays. It'll probably take 2 trays in your oven, or you can do them one at a time. So I have a tray lined with parchment paper, and I'm going to take the slices of eggplant, and I've got olive oil in a little dish here, and I've got my brush. It's basically a pastry brush, and I'm just going to brush both sides lightly with the olive oil. Eggplants are like sponges. Actually, the original recipe said to put the eggplant in a bowl that already had the olive oil in it and to toss it, but what happens is the first few slices absorb all the oil, and then you're forced to keep adding oil. This works beautifully, especially when you're roasting it, and it doesn't need any more oil than what I'm doing. I'm going to take a little bit of kosher salt and just lightly sprinkle it just on the one side. It doesn't really need a lot of heavy seasonings. The sauce will have more seasonings in it. And I'm also going to sprinkle it with a little bit of pepper. This is going to go into my preheated oven, which is at 400 degrees again. And I'm going to roast it for about 30 to 35 minutes. I'm going to check it about halfway through and flip them. And this is the roasted eggplant just out of the oven. I've got my frying pan all set to go on medium heat. I'm adding my olive oil, 1 to 2 tablespoons. I don't use a lot of it. We're going to add our sliced garlic, and I'm using 2 dried chili peppers. It adds a little bit of heat and depth. If you don't like it, you can leave those out. We're just going to saute these for a minute or 2 until the garlic starts to brown. You have to be very careful with garlic because it starts burning pretty quickly. And if you burn your garlic, your entire dish will taste burnt. So if you start a dish with garlic in it and you're cooking your garlic like I am now and somehow it burns, throw it out and start over because it will ruin your dish. Okay? My garlic is just beginning to brown. So that's perfect. I don't want it to get too brown. I'm going to add my can of diced tomatoes with the juice. I'm going to add my oregano. And whenever you're using dried herbs, don't just dump them in. Rub them between your fingers because that releases all the flavors and oils. So this is how I add any dried herb I'm using. And I'm adding my sugar and salt, which are both in here. And a nice grind of pepper. We're going to let this cook on medium to medium low for 10 minutes until it thickens and reduces a little bit. I've got my pasta cooking. I'm using linguine and it's just about ready. So I want to show you what I do to have reserved pasta water to use in my sauce. I've got my Pyrex cup and I'm very carefully scooping some pasta water that I'm just going to leave right here to use in the sauce. And that's all there is to that. The tomatoes, along with the other ingredients, has been cooking and it's reduced and thickened. So we're going to add the roasted eggplant slices right into this. And I'm going to add my cooked linguine into the frying pan. I'm going to turn this down to low now. And I love using this pasta fork, spoon, whatever you want to call it. It helps with a dish like this where you really are just trying to get the sauce all over the pasta. Okay, and this is where our pasta water comes in. It helps kind of thin out the sauce a little bit. And I'm going to put this back up to medium and make it just a little more saucy. Going to add just a little bit and then this is it. We're done. I'm going to show you how I plate this. Okay, so I take my pasta dish. I like using, it's almost like a soup plate. And then just going to put some of my pasta along with the sauce and eggplant. I still have a little bit of my garden basil, so I'm gonna just take my kitchen scissors and cut a little bit of fresh basil on top. And then if you want to add cheese, which I'm going to do, you can use Parmesan, Pecorino Romano, and I have this grater, which I adore, and I just grate a little bit of cheese right on top. And voila! We have pasta alla Norma. Okay, so as you can see, it's really, in fact, you can roast your eggplant a day ahead, put it in a Ziploc bag in the refrigerator. If you get everything prepared, it's really a quick, simple, but delicious dish. Are there any questions? Okay. Well, I guess it's back to you, Murray.
Okay, wait, I have to unmute myself because that was like really good. Thank you, Tova. I'm hungry already. Okay, well, that is about it for our class for tonight. For next, don't forget you can get all the videos and recipes in the chat or at the website of the synagogue. Next week, we are going to be doing the minimal ingredient items, sweet and sour meatballs, mini sweet potato buns, caprese salad, whole wheat seeded crackers, and salted almond butter cookies. Don't forget to go to the Cantor's class, and you're going to learn a lot, and you're going to be very happy with that. So if there's no other, yes.
I just wanted to give you guys a plug in case other people aren't aware. If they want to see any of your classes again, they're now all up on the B'nai Yeshurun YouTube channel. Because I actually watched the one I missed. So you guys.
Okay. Well, and you look a lot better for it too, by the way. Okay. Any other questions, or that's it? So we'll see y'all next week. Yes.
I wanted to ask Tova if instead of eggplant, one could use zucchini.
Can't hear.
Can't hear you.
Instead of eggplant, can you use zucchini?
Can you use what?
Zucchini. Zucchini instead of eggplant.
You can. It won't be pasta alla Norma.
Okay.
You know, you can use any roasted vegetables.
Could be pasta alla Ricardo instead. All right. Well, thank you all for coming.